Bonjour everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we are not gonna talk neither about Tank Company or World of Tank Blitz, but rather focus on WarThunder. I'm pretty sure that if you're familiar with World of Tank PC, you are also familiar with their main opponents, being the developers known as Gaijing that developed WarThunder. It's basically kind of the exact same game, but less arcade and more realistic, and a lot of people are already loving it. But what you may not know, at least not yet, is that they are cooking a mobile game. Yes, a mobile game for us World of Tank Blitz players to play also. And no, this video is not sponsored, I just thought it could be interesting to see what it looks like. For the most curious out there, or for the ones that will definitely try out the game, if you want more information, the best place to find them, and which is ironic, is the WarThunder forum, because here the game got hyped so much that a lot of people are posting thread about it. And here I just took one out as an example. Basically, the game is called WarThunder Edge, and not only is it going to feature tanks, you are also going to be able to play with what seems to be ships, because here you see some pictures of the Yamato, plus also planes. Of course, I don't know how it will feel like, honestly, to play planes on a mobile phone. I mean, we have many different games that are already using it and doing it, but still it seems like it's going to be quite hardcore to put maybe a 15 versus 15 on these kind of phones. And specifically, if it's the case, you are going to require a lot of good specs, therefore an expensive phone. But let's not make you wait any longer, and let's take a look at what the game currently has to offer. As you can see, everything is in Turkish for one simple reason. The game is available only in this area of the world. I don't know why WarThunder is only testing in Turkey. Maybe that's a choice from them, and therefore everything is in Turkish. Basically, you still can play it if you are from Europe, USA, any countries actually, as long as you use a VPN and that you switch that VPN to Turkey. Or if you're a Turkish citizen, you just go to the Google Play Store, because I don't feel like it's available on iOS yet. And usually games like that are not tested on iOS because of the norms and things like that are a little bit upsetting for the developers, but rather played on APK and things like that are not necessarily supported by iOS. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to focus on what you are currently seeing on screen. And I feel like a lot of you are pretty much disappointed. Be aware that it's an alpha footage, not even beta, which means that we are at the very beginning of the development process. And usually games are adding the graphics at the very last time, just before the release, because what is important and what is really hardcore to implement correctly are the different mechanisms. And this game has a lot of mechanisms, because of course, first of all, they will have to focus on the different players, and most specifically on the different types of how could I say that? Items, stuffs you can play with, ships, planes, tanks, like I said. But most importantly, they have something that I think is much more difficult to implement than any other tank game, which is what you just witnessed with the kill of the M10 GMC. In this game, it's extremely realistic every time you hit a shell or you get hit by a shell. And I feel like this is probably why it's taking so long for them to develop it, because it's been in development for maybe 6 years by now, because they started talking about it in 2013, and we have been expecting the game since. But it seems like finally we have at least access to some footage. Now, of course, there is one question we need to ask ourselves and answer, obviously. Is WarThunder Mobile, when it will be totally released and therefore with good graphics, etc., will overshadow Blitz? No. The answer is definitely no, for one simple reason. Both the mechanisms of the games are so different that they are not necessarily aiming at the same type of player. Usually, when you are a WarThunder player, you like your game a little bit more realistic. You also like to play, I'm gonna say, maybe a more mature gameplay. What I mean by that is that the main difference with Blitz is that in Blitz everything goes fast. It's an arcade game in which you have fun all the time and there is action all the time, which is what makes it popular in my opinion. Whereas in WarThunder, if you ever played it, you know that a lot of people camp, nearly everyone camps actually, you don't have the choice. And most of the games are not going to be too active. You just sit in one spot, you try to rush a little bit, and usually as there is no HUD like we have in Blitz, it's quite hard to see the opponents, it's quite hard to know where they are, to attack, to penetrate correctly, to defend yourself, etc, etc. And that's what makes it good in a way, because you truly need to invest yourself in order to be good at WarThunder, whereas it's not necessarily the case with Blitz. I mean, let's take an example. You take one newbie with 0 games in both WarThunder and World of Tanks. If you make him play with a pro player from both games, he will probably learn to play Blitz in 2 weeks maximum. In 2 weeks, you can really make out, from a noob, you can become a pro. Whereas when it comes to WarThunder, I feel like it's gonna take at least maybe 6 months minimum in order to get something good. And well, this is what makes me believe that World of Tanks Blitz is going to be more popular than WarThunder. Of course, playing both is the way to go to see which one fits more your playstyle and of course your enjoyment. Now, I don't have anything else to say about the game because we don't know anything about it truly. Besides what I just showed you, the game is quite laggy, there are little to no one playing it because it's not yet finished. So we're not necessarily gonna bother talking about it. Let's focus a little bit more on what our friend is doing here. A French guy, by the way, La Fraude du Soir, that's how we pronounce it in French. And it's actually a really cool name in French, from the clan LGN. LGN, that is a known clan to have great players. So let's see what he's doing with the M60, a tank that you should be able to get in the next Christmas event. It's not going to be the main tank, but usually it comes back every Christmas. So you see that for the moment he's not struggling at all doing the damage and using his turret to cope with the TVP autoloader. And it worked pretty well because he just managed to snap all of his shells on those 4 guys and just secure the win already. Now he's at 6.6k damage and he's gonna climb again if he has enough time to get on the enemies, because I want to remind you that here we are playing on the Supremacy game. What do you want to do if you have the M60 or if you have the M48 pattern, because both tanks are quite similar? Just make sure to stay in all down and obviously only show your turret when it's needed. If you do have the possibility of avoiding to show your hull and just use your 10 degrees of gun depression from a hilly position, then do it, because that's exactly what you're supposed to do with it. Now the main difference between the M60 and the M48 pattern is that the accuracy on the M60 is a little bit better, but honestly the difference between both tanks is not good enough to make the M60 a relevant purchase, knowing that the M60 doesn't have, and it's important in my opinion to tell you that, it doesn't have more credit coefficient than a regular tank, which means that you are not going to make more money using the M60 than you would do using the M48 pattern, which is a little bit of a fraud in my opinion from Wargaming. They could at least just tell people that, but no, they don't, and they just leave it here like this. And that's how we finish this video. Just tell me in the comments, what do you think about WarThunder Mobile? When do you think is going to be the release date? Are you gonna play it like day 1 of the release, or are you just gonna see it from the distance thinking, yeah, that's a competitor that I never want to touch? I'm curious actually to see how many of my audience is playing WarThunder Mobile. And well, waiting for your answers. I'm gonna hopefully see you for a new video. Bye.